More than a foundry of intellectual advancement, school needs to be a haven for human development. Students today live in a different, more complex society from what existed a few years ago. They are struggling to meet their needs, seldom understanding what those needs even are. Young people often behave in ways that do not provide lasting happiness. To guide youngsters toward a good life, the concept of control theory will give educators direction with proven techniques. Control theory, not another educational fad, but a solid program to help students understand themselves, to live in harmony with others, and to prepare themselves to advance our society.
I'd kind of like to start this whole thing by asking you to think for a minute about this term at risk. What does it mean to you? What does at risk, what does that term connote in your own mind?
I'd say young people that possibly might be going in the wrong direction, contrary to the acceptable standards in our society.
Right. What else?
I think students who tune you out. You sit in the classroom and you know they're there, but they're really not paying attention to you.
Tune teachers out. Okay?
Students that don't have any home support, any parental or environmental support in their life. Very little. And they look to the school to do it all.
Students with poor self-esteem. Students with disabilities, learning, emotional.
Students in a given environment, we'll say in the central part of Los Angeles, for example, where they're forced to be more so at risk.
All right. Is there anything we really need to add to that, or have we got a comprehensive thought about what this at-risk kid is?
Well, they lack goals, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many kids do you think, what percentage of kids in our schools across America, I'm not just talking your own school, across America, what percentage of kids would you label this as at risk? Guess.
35-40%.
35-40%?
It's constantly growing.
In the city of Detroit, 22,000 entered the freshman year and 7,000 graduated.
And we said 35-40%? Yeah, it's higher. It's higher. I mean, that kind of data. In our own Los Angeles Unified School District, how many kids that stay with the district, but get out, graduate from high school? I think it's less than 50%. How do you know these kids? What do they do in your classrooms and schools, on the streets in the neighborhoods? Yes?
They have attendance problems, they have problems with motivation, they don't do well in school.
We really haven't found a strategy yet, or a way to work with these kids that's as effective as we would like it to be. We've tried coercion, haven't we? Lordy, I mean, we've been coercing kids for how long, you know? And we're not bad folks for it. That's the way of the world. The way of the world is, Leslie, do me wrong and I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt you so bad that you'll never want to do me wrong again. And as long as Leslie looks me in the face and believes I will do that to her, when she's with me, she'll behave well. But when she's with you, she's not going to be this way. We can make young people conform. You know, they'll do it for a little bit, they'll do it to escape problems, more problems, but they haven't got any style. Well, we want to try to overcome that. And the information I want to share with you today is a pathway, people. It's not an answer, but it's a pathway that as we gain skill using these ideas, more and more of the kids will become more and more responsible for their own behavior and their own success.
They're like the people who go to AA and you tell them you're wonderful. The best thing for them to do is to discover that they are wonderful. That is the most powerful thing to have happen.
Gives me goosebumps to think about that.
Yeah.
You know, to help kids think and find how good they really are, what their power really is. Okay, I'm hot enough to take my coat off now, so we're going to get down to some nitty-gritty here. I want to get at control theory. Control theory is a way of thinking about human behavior that's relatively new. And control theory is William Glasser's concept. That's a word that he attached to it. Others talk about it in other ways, but I'm going to talk about it as control theory because we follow the thinking and precepts of Glasser. What people have thought about human behavior is that we're really sort of victims of the world. Whatever happens to us, we react to. And the name for that thinking is stimulus-response psychology. The world stimulates us and we respond to the stimuli, meaning that the control of our lives lies outside of ourselves. But everything you've been saying this morning about this is that they're choosing their own behaviors. They're doing their own things. What we need to look at is a model of behavior, thinking and learning about behavior, and kids need to understand these ideas. So the posters I'm going to present from this morning were designed for youngsters. Kindergarten teachers don't have any difficulty at all helping kids understand what's on the charts. 12th grade teachers don't either, but they do it at a different level and with different words. So we're not talking about a graded thing, and we've used and selected the cartoon modality because it's accepted in our country. The message on this poster is, there are really three basic messages. Here's a young person, an individual, and out in front of him, around him, is the real world. All right? See, now, if we put this picture into use here, this is me. Where are you? You're in my real world. Now, we turn it around. Where am I to you? In the real world, right. And what connects me and the real world, and what connects you in the real world, and what connects your students in the real world is our sensory system. That's the bridge. Our sensory system, our eyes, our ears, our nose, and our skin bring information to us from the real world. And then we begin to process that. The individual person begins to process that information, organize it to be used. Everything that you receive, people, is somewhere in your brain. Now, the older I get, the less access I have to a lot of that stuff that's in there. But it's there. It's all put in. Because when I take information in, the first thing I do is run it through a process that on this poster I call a knowledge checker. Does it register? Do I recognize what's coming in? We have a little valve up here, and that little valve just flips open and things dissipate. See, they don't go down into the rest of our brain. If we don't recognize them, they slip away. Now think about that in kids and learning. You know, we have a principle of learning that we talk about. We say we always start with something that kids know. See, I mean, people, that is control theory. Because if they recognize what you're talking about, if it makes some sense to them, if they can put it into some perspective in their life, then they can process it. What we do with our value selector, and a value selector is what you know about the world. That's your value system. You live in a culture, you have a cultural value, right? You have a friendship group, they bring you values, don't they? And when information comes in, you start sorting it through that collection of information that you have called your value system. And then you sort the information that comes in into three broad useful categories. One is good for me. The next one is general knowledge, neither good nor bad. And the third one is bad for me. A dog that charges you growling and snapping its teeth, I mean, you already have learned enough to know that that is bad for you. Okay, so you've got that picture, and whoops, when you see that dog, you exercise appropriate behavior. You've already put that knowledge in here. A dog that comes towards you, ears down, tail wagging, head hanging, smiling at you all the way, that's a good for you. That's a fine thing. So you'll have that there. And of course, the dog just trotting down the street, it's a dog. And you know all about dogs. So you sort the knowledge. Kids sort the knowledge. But the important thing to remember out of this is that you have an all I want world, and so do the kids. And it's formed out of your all I know world, and that comes to you through your sensory system with the real world. Where have at-risk kids put school?
That's bad for me.
I mean, that's pretty much what they've sorted it into. That doesn't mean all the people there are bad. That doesn't mean anybody tried to make it that way. But because of their own lack of success in that institution over a period of time, they've come to think of it this way. So already from understanding control theory, we're beginning to know that we're going to have to do some things to change school from the bad for me place to the good for me place. Now I'm going to begin to put these up on the wall over here because I'm going to want to save them. And I'll battle this first one with your patience and get it up here. And then Leslie's going to going to help me later on to do this. Look at there.
Perfect.
Magic. Thank you, thank you. I can just go up and put it on the wall and there it stays. I want to talk about, in this next poster, the way you and I go about building our all I want world. The human being is a creature who lives to fulfill a set of basic needs. And our basic needs are simply belonging, gaining power, having fun, and being free. All right? You could break them down into other kinds of additional categories, but I think it's really nice to have 4. I can remember 4, you can remember 4, the kids can remember 4. There's really one other one. I kind of bypassed it over here. It has to do with survival, the whole idea of staying alive. That's number 1, isn't it? But see, we have a whole part of our brain that does that for us. It keeps our heart beating and our blood pressure regulated, our body temperature regulated. You don't think about those things. We all have this monitoring system. So the first need is to stay alive. But the next 4 deal with the quality of our life, because when we're alive, then we want life to be good. Okay? Isn't it nice we have 5 fingers and stay alive is number 1. And the other 4 needs. Teachable, really teachable. When we understand that their behavior is all designed to fulfill one of these needs, the kid that spits in your eye is trying to fulfill a need.
I don't like you.
He's only using something he knows how to do to fulfill one of these needs. The kid that does all his work and strives for A's is filling a need. See, now it behooves us to know what these needs are so that we can, in classrooms, help kids learn behaviors that are not at risk, that don't put him at risk, that do build a free society and satisfies needs. That's really what we're talking about today, that whole reorientation of our thinking to what behavior is all about in this world, and then teaching with that information in mind. So let's talk about belonging for a minute. What does it mean to us to belong?
Being involved.
All right, all right. I mean, it's anti-lonely, isn't it?
Belonging helps you establish who
Absolutely,
you are.
absolutely. Gaining power, people. Gaining power means gaining knowledge to use in your life. Nothing more, nothing less. You cannot do what you do not know. So knowledge is power. So gaining power means gaining knowledge and skill. Having fun. What's fun all about? No. Yeah, terrific. 3 components, maybe. Accomplishment. Entertainment. Recreation. Those are the 3 big component elements in fun. So we can have a lot of fun in school, people. It's not parties, it's not entertainment kind of thing, and it's not going on trips, recreation, or playing ball on the yard. It's accomplishment in the classroom. It feels marvelous to succeed. Oh, it's glorious, glorious feeling. And if we help kids succeed easily, effectively, about 75% of the time in class, you'll never have to worry about them being at risk. Being free is the 4th basic need. And we exercise our freedom simply by saying, I choose to. We make choices. I want, I do, I will, I go. We believe in freedom. You know, that's not license. That's freedom to make responsible choices. And freedom and responsibility are linked, aren't they? If I don't perform responsibly with you on the highway, you're limited as to what you can do. You have to watch me. No, you're just, you depend on me to be a responsible person. The basic needs drive us. They drive us. Every single thing you do, you're trying to fulfill one of those needs. Behind every one of our behaviors, people, is a need. Now, when kids misbehave in the classroom, they want something. They're trying to make something happen. But you and I tend to say, stop, stop, Joe, no, wrong. And then we go on and teach again. And I don't really know, in this whole process of learning, if we're being as respectful to a kid as we could be when we just say stop. I mean, we're putting the, you know, the signal out. We're saying that's the wrong thing to do. But as we go through the day, I think we're going to work at more ideas that are going to help you be able to handle that in a different way. Let's look at how control theory works. We've got 5 numbers. I'm going to begin with 1. The life I want I mean, that comes out of number 4 up here, my All I Want World. I have a whole set of pictures, and we put them diagrammatically on the back of the brain like this. And then so we have all these good life pictures over here. Now we use our sensory system, remember, eyes, ears, nose, and skin, and this side is the real world. So we're always checking the real world against our dreams. All right, what we want to have happen. And we do that in a comparing process. Here illustrated with a balance scale, you know. I mean, if what I want is on my left arm, and the pen on my left side, and the other things that I don't want would be on the other way. See, I'm constantly trying to keep that in balance. That's what life is all about. It's never static. So with my behavior, I act on the world to make it do things I want to be there for me. I mean, isn't that something? We act on the world with our behavior to make it do the things that we feel are satisfying things. See, if we follow through with the examples, here's a youngster who obviously wants a friend. When he went out to greet that friend in the real world, what happened? I mean, how's he going to feel? Which way is his scale tipped? Is it a little bit or does it go wonk? Yeah, I mean, it goes wonk, doesn't it? And that registers in this comparing system as a shocking signal, as a real emotional impact. You get a feeling that says, ah, it's terrible, you know? And so we show it with a red spark. I mean, wham, you feel that. You know, every single time something goes wrong, you get this feeling. And what that feeling does is to drive your behavior system into operation. See, I have a tolerance. I may be able to stand this much tip, okay? No problem. I'll let you take care of it, and it'll kind of come up, and then it'll go back down again. But I can handle this. But this, when I get that far down, I'm going to start taking charge of it myself. So we all have a tolerance role, how much we can take. But at some point for all of us, zap, we're going to act. Now, we dip into our behavior system, and this kind of fuzzy area, irregularly shaped over here, represents the all I know world over there. It's all the things I know. And in that all I know world, actually this whole thing is that way, I have organized, practiced, ready-to-use behaviors. All lined up. You know, they're there. And then I have this sort of amorphous body of information that's there for me to draw from. Now, when we get to responsibility training this afternoon, we're going to deal with that very issue. How do we get kids to learn other behaviors to put over here? Because that we can do. Let me slip to another example. When you leave here today, you're going to get in your car. You're going to drive home. Let's say you hit a residential street. You're driving along, thinking about the workshop today, and suddenly a youngster jumps off that curb, darts between cars, and is out in front of you in the street. I mean, there's no way you're going to miss him. You know, so what do? Have you got a behavior for that? Yeah, you learn them. Wham, you hit those brakes right now to stop the car. But as you perceive what's happening, you know the car's not going to stop in time. It's going to make contact with that kid. Now you're pushed here because you don't have a practiced behavior for that. That's one of these new emergency kinds of things. So what are you going to do?
What would word to avoid
all right
with a human being at
all
all
right
costs? You'll hit anything else.
All right. Okay. So you put your value system to work and start sorting through other possible behaviors. Redirect your car is what she said. You're going to pick the softest spot, aren't you? You'd rather hit maybe a curb and run up on the lawn instead of a parked car. Parked car might be softer than a telephone pole. You know, I mean, you quickly go sort through. I mean, so fast, right? You go through that and come up with your decision and form the behavior and take it, whatever it is. But see, now you're dipping into this side. See, I can teach that to the class. I can teach this to the kids so that they understand that. I can teach them that when they choose a behavior to use, it's like driving a car. It's taking you someplace. See, your behavior takes you someplace. Do you really want to go to the place where your behavior is taking you? If it's a plus life, we're choosing pretty good behaviors. Boy, we just keep adding them. See, school is the process, people, of building new behaviors, forming them, shaping them, practicing them. Now, what is it that puts these behaviors in place and holds them there? You know, sticks them in. success. The good feeling that comes from being able to make your own good life. Success is glue. It sticks things in place. Okay? All right, now, I'm gonna let you put that one up, if you would, please, Leslie, and I'll get this last one. Summary. Summary of the first four. I choose my own behaviors to make a good life. That's what we've been talking about all morning, right? I choose them. It all begins with the picture, the idea of what's good for us in our minds. In this case, the youngster is obviously talking about fun, enjoyment, and there are several pictures in his mind. You know, here's one, being in a car with a friend or even having a car himself. But in order to have fun, the youngster has to say, I want. So the first step of any behavior is goal, I want. The next one is make a plan to reach your goal. All right, let me go back to the car thing. Goal, I don't want to hit that kid. Plan, I'm not stopping fast enough, I've got to pick another path. Then act, do it. You put it to work. Goal, plan, action. The minute you hit the action part, you start doing, you start to check the results. And how do you check the results? You use your sensory system. You survey what's going on in the world. Eyes, ears, nose, and skin bring you information that tells you how things are going. So it's goal, plan, action, result. If we took the first letter of each of that word, we create a little acronym because all behavior is goal-oriented. We say G. Dash after it, put P-A-R together, and it becomes PAR. Can kids remember a term like that, G-PAR? Of course. Can I teach them G-PAR? Yeah, we'll get into it in more detail this afternoon, how you do that. But this is the natural behavior cycle. This is the way your brain works. So we ought to use the way your brain, instead of trying to take control of people, we ought to get them to take control of their own lives by using this system. So we have to teach them the system and put it to work. Okay, so this is the fourth poster. I'm going to put them up there. Now, I'd like to do something now. You know, we've got some information here. And I'd like to kind of take a break, but have you do some talking about it at the same time. Move the chairs. And just get in a group, okay? Little task here. I want to know from you what you think, how you think these ideas can be helpful to students in your room if they learn them and use them, how they can be helpful to teachers in rooms if you use them to learn, and how they'll facilitate or could facilitate learning. Anything along those lines, okay? And you just record some of the things that you thought were important, and after we've been at this for 10 or 15 minutes, then we'll just see, we'll put them up, and we'll just see what your thoughts are about relative to how control theory can be helpful to you in school, okay?
You should be helping them, not hurting them. Otherwise, I can't respect what you're doing.
Well, after 3 hours of him running around and not listening to me, it's like I can't handle it anymore, and I send him out. And every day I say he's going to last long. On Friday, he was in my class the whole day.
Oh, good success, Holly.
But I don't know.
In fact, I say to kids, you don't get stronger by exercising my muscles. You get stronger by exercising your muscles. And these are the muscles that they exercise, really.
I think that most of us would feel that, as Doug had said earlier, that it's easy to adapt this to almost any level, from the adult level down into the very young child.
Junior high students, you don't give up, but you certainly have a lot of layers to go through.
It creates a more positive climate, decreasing negative behavior in the classroom.
And we like that idea of having someone, a significant role model or a significant other that can make a difference in their life.
It's just significant to me how all of your comments have begun to move toward our humanity, not our status as students or teachers or administrators or counselors, but beginning to swing around toward we're people trying to make this world a great place for all of us to live in. And I think that's really significant. It doesn't mean we do away with the curriculum. It doesn't mean we stop teaching history and science and math and reading and writing and all of those fine things. It just means we go about doing them in ways that allow kids to use their humanity. That's all control theory is. It's how human beings work. Our emotional system is our God-given evaluator. That's how we know things are going well for us or not. We already talked plus minus. We feel good about things, we feel bad about things. See, youngsters can learn that just as well as we learn it. And then when they're having trouble, we can teach them that experiencing an emotion is telling them something, and then they can begin to put GPAR to work for themselves. Instead of acting mad, understanding mad as a signal. So let's run through them a little bit. The plus side, of course, is easy, glad. This is the way we want kids to feel as much of the time as possible. That's a good poster to look at. I mean, why not have the poster up in your room and say, this is our goal, to feel this way about the things we do together, to increase our power, to belong, to have fun, and to be free. What are 2 things we could all begin doing tomorrow that would make more of us feel like this? 5 minutes of discussion. That's not an unconscionable amount of time to spend in doing that. List them. If you don't want the kids writing on that, if they're not up to that, take their ideas as I did. Put them down on retrieval charts. Don't put them on the board where you're erasing. Put them down on retrieval charts, because a couple of weeks later you can put those up and say, look, we tried, this is what we said. Are we doing it? Are we successful? Is there more of this going on? And then you get to the whole thing of replanning it. If it's not as good as you'd like it, replan it. But just using this and having the symbol in front of you and using that word, feel glad, you know? I mean, it's not so appropriate grammatically. It's very appropriate in terms of our human behavior. Now let's get to the minuses. The minus emotions. First one's mad. We have 3, mad, sad, and afraid. Those are the minus emotions. And here are a whole bunch of situations that make us mad. You know what mad is? Simply, we're not getting what we want. That's all. Now, I mean, when you understand that, when you teach that to kids, and when a kid is mad, instead of saying, stop being mad, you say, what do you want? What is it that you're not getting? Can I help you? Powerful, powerful, powerful for a mad youngster. The minute, people, the very second you identify what you want that you're not getting, your anger starts to diminish. I swear in 15, 20 seconds, you can really help a kid understand there's nothing wrong with being mad. And it's kind of silly to go on just being mad. Let's figure out how to get around it. Mad is a very important emotion in life and in the world. You know, we're not going to get rid of it. Let's use it intelligently. It's a minus emotion we can turn to a plus. All right? The next one I want to talk about is sad. And sad is the story that we've lost something, isn't it? Something that that's very important to us. We've lost something. My dog ran away. We lost an important game. How do you deal with sad? The same way you deal with mad. See, people who are sad, if they're going to keep feeling sad, ultimately turn that into what we call depression. Where you're so sad for so long that you're now immobilized. I can't do anything. And you have kids in the classroom that are that way. You know, oh, look at me, help me somebody. I'm reeling, I can't handle myself. There's only one way out. The one way out is goal, plan, action, result. Being sad, the way out of it is to change behavior. The car is going in the wrong direction. Grab hold of the wheel and let's figure out where to steer it. So we get to where we'd rather be than sad. Sad, just like mad, is a signal that life isn't good for us. Kids can learn sad. The last one is afraid. Okay? And afraid really it's a minus emotion, and it means that we're out of control. Something's wrong. We don't understand. It's spooky. You know, the examples, a lost child, you know, the rope snapped and he broke his arm, you know. Now what's going to happen? Huh? You know, is mother going to be mad at me? Am I going to have to go to the hospital? All those kinds of things when something like this happens. Big dogs scare me. Loud noises give me trouble. I mean, you could develop a whole series of things in your classroom that produce fear in kids. So we teach kids that the idea that fear tells you a story. You're not sure of what to do. You're out of control. Let's sit down and figure out, first of all, what you want. See, that's at the heart of all the minuses. The first thing you do is what you want. And then let's figure out a way for you to get there. See, the important part of this message is that the emotional system is our natural life evaluator. And we have to trust the feelings. You have to trust them. They're for you. They tell you life is going like your pictures or not like your pictures. Just understanding that emotions are God-given evaluators is helpful to us in teaching them to kids. Then you can deal with their anger. You can't say stop being angry because what you're saying is stop evaluating. And it's impossible to stop evaluating. We can't do that. It's built into our lives. So that's the story of control theory, all right? The idea that these 4 posters give us the message of how our brain works and understanding that in this results process, you and I use our emotional system and that we can teach that to kids. Okay?